Mike, it turns out we're from different countries.
What?
There are.
You sure?
I think so. There are lots of little things that make our respective homes different from each other, but one really fascinates me.
Please tell me we're not going to talk about Celsius and Fahrenheit today.
Ooh, I'm writing that down for a future
No,
episode.
I don't want to do it. I really just can't. I can't do. This one's bad enough, and I don't want to talk about Celsius and Fahrenheit.
No, we're talking about traffic direction, the science behind what side of the road we drive down.
I am not interested in battling this out versus right-hand traffic versus left-hand traffic. I don't want to have that war today.
Well, in a way, the war is already won.
Why have you got to be this way? See, I just said it. Why are you doing it?
USA. Right-hand traffic, or RHT, is used in 163 fine countries and territories, with the remaining 76 slacker countries and territories using left-hand traffic.
See, now I'm going to make a statement. Just because everyone does something doesn't mean it's necessarily better. Like,
USA.
Jump off a bridge and all that kind of thing.
Wow.
You know, if 162 countries jumped off a bridge, would you join them? There you go.
We just move on.
So 76 countries does put me in the minority, as according to Wikipedia. Countries that use LHT account for a sixth of the world's area and a quarter of its roads.
Did you measure them before we started?
I cannot confirm or deny that. I will say a quarter of the roads. That's pretty good.
Yeah, I guess. If you scroll through that list of LHT countries, a lot of them were indeed part of the Great British Empire and have remained in that tradition. Some, of course, have switched, which we'll talk about a little later.
This does affect more than just a driving direction, though. For example, according to the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea, water traffic is RHT. For aircraft, the U.S. Federal Aviation's regulation suggests that right-hand traffic principles, both in the air and on water, should apply.
I have to stop for a second. Is there any document on the planet that we live on with a more literal name than the International Regulations for Preventing Collisions at Sea? It's so perfect.
It's very good, and I also like the thought that for some reason somebody felt like... I feel like air and water is kind of different to roads, by and large. You know, like...
You can go anywhere.
How do you sail on the right-hand side of the Atlantic? How do you do that? I want to know how that's possible. How do you do that?
All the pirates can email you directly.
Please do.
Okay, so let's go back in time. Did you know that the ancient Greek, ancient Egyptians, and Roman troops all kept to the left when marching?
I can honestly say that I have never once considered to find that information out.
Many historians believe that ancient travelers on horseback or on foot generally kept to the left, since most people were right-handed. So if two men riding on horseback were to start a fight, they would each edge toward the left.
In the late 1700s, traffic in the United States was on the right-hand side, based on the use of large freight wagons pulled by several pairs of horses. These wagons had no driver's seat, so the typically right-handed driver held his whip in their right hand and thus sat on the left rear horse.
Makes sense.
In France, traditionally foot traffic had kept right, while carriage traffic kept left. Following the French Revolution, all traffic kept right. I don't know why the French Revolution was so specific in this, but such is life. France pushed this way of life onto its territories around the globe.
The first reference in English law to an order for LHT was in 1756 with regard to the London Bridge.
A few decades later, RHT was becoming law in the US. The Philadelphia and Lancaster Turnpike was deemed right-hand by law in 1792. New York formalized in 1804, New Jersey in 1813, and Massachusetts in 1821.
There's something really interesting to me in these cases, that the entire system for driving and walking on roadways often arises from small details, like what side the driver sat on the wagon. Like, it's just like this really small detail that just has exploded out into the modern world.
There are a lot of these things that make me kind of a little bit uncomfortable about how much of our infrastructure is based upon horse and cart. Right, like there's just so many of these little things. So I'm like, should we really? Like, maybe we should rethink this at some point. I don't know. Of course, there are safety issues to consider. In one study, researchers concluded that left-hand traffic may be safer for elderly drivers since humans are more commonly right-eye dominant than left-eye dominant.
In fact, some research comparing accident stats between countries operating either LHT or RHT has actually deemed left-hand traffic to be safer, But of course, not everyone agrees.
Of course. We should talk a little bit about vehicles specifically, but before we do, let me thank Squarespace for their support of this show. Make your next move with Squarespace. They let you easily create a website for your next idea. With the ability to grab a unique domain name, take advantage of beautiful templates and more, they are the place for your next project or idea. Whether you want to create a store, blog, site for your business, or just about any website at all, Squarespace has the tools you need. There's nothing to install, patch, or upgrade. They're an all-in-one platform that takes care of all of this for you. They have 24/7 support, and you can sign up for a free trial. Just go to squarespace.com/ungeniest, and when you sign up for a plan, use the code ungeniest to get 10% off. Their plans start at just $12 a month, but you can get that 10% off when you use the code ungeniest at checkout. Squarespace. Make your next move. Make your next website.
In RHT jurisdictions, vehicles are configured with left-hand drive so that the driver is sitting on the left side. In LHT, the reverse is true.
The driver's side, the side closest to the center of the road, is sometimes called the offside, while the passenger side, the side closest to the side of the road, is sometimes called the near side.
I've never heard those terms, and I've already forgotten which one is which.
Yeah, because it kind of doesn't make sense. Offside is the closest to you, and near side is furthest away from you.
It's confusing.
But such is life. This does mean that drivers are near to the center line and closer to oncoming traffic, but it actually hasn't always been this way.
In fact, most American cars produced before 1910 were right-hand drive. In 1908, Henry Ford standardized the Model T as left-hand drive in RHT America, arguing, and I think it's pretty interesting, that with right-hand drive and right-hand traffic, the passenger had to get out on the street side and walk around the car, and that with the steering from the left, the driver is able to see even the wheels of the other cars, and it makes it more easy to avoid an accident.
Clearly that stuck, and thanks to the popularity of the Model T, that is the world that Americans now live in.
There are, of course, exceptions. In cases where the driver needs to be near the curb, things like mail delivery vehicles or street sweepers, the wheel may be on the quote-unquote wrong side.
Most low-beam headlamps produce an asymmetrical light suitable for use only on one side of the road. Low-beam headlamps in LHT jurisdictions throw most of their light forwards to the left. Those for RHT throw most of their light forward to the right, thus illuminating obstacles and road signs while minimizing glare for oncoming traffic.
In Europe, some cars now come with controls inside the car to shift the light from one side to another, so manufacturers don't have to carry two styles of headlights in dealerships.
Wait, what happens if you cross a border and the traffic flow changes? How do you do that?
I'm so glad you asked.
Oh, no.
Let's talk about Thailand. Thailand has 3 RHT neighbors. Most of the borders just use traffic lights to do the switching, but between Hong Kong and China, roads simply trim down into one-way passes to route people seamlessly.
Oh, that's genius. So,
it's good.
I assume that they go one way and then cross over each other, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's really clever. I like that. Before we wrap this up, I want to talk about Dagen H in Sweden. This is short for a word that neither of us can pronounce. I tried. I watched YouTube videos.
I can't do it.
Which I usually will do. If there's a difficult word in this show, I'll watch a YouTube video. But this one, not possible. But it does look like it's trying to say traffic Armageddon, which I find very funny. So I recommend that you go to the Wikipedia page so you can see what I'm talking about. Dagen H took place on September 3rd, 1967, when the country changed from left-hand traffic to right-hand traffic.
This change was hotly contested. Most of Sweden's neighbors are RHT, and 90% of the cars in the country are left-hand drive. But in a 1955 vote, some 83% of citizens voted to keep driving on the left.
Nevertheless, for some reason, the government decided to move forward with the switch. I don't know exactly why they did that, just ignoring referendums. Imagine such a thing. To move forward with the switch and launched a 4-year educational campaign to prepare the public. The campaign included displaying the Dagen H logo on various commemorative items, including milk cartons and underwear.
Wow.
Hey,
man, stylish.
Getting ready in the morning, you look down, you're like, oh, roads are changing.
As Dagen H neared, every intersection was equipped with extra traffic signals wrapped in black plastic. During that same time frame, a parallel set of lines were painted on the roads with white paint and then covered with tape. Before Dagen H, Swedish roads had used yellow lines. That's going to be important here in a second. From 1 to 5 o'clock in the morning on September 3rd, all non-essential traffic was banned from the streets.
Get off the roads. Get out of here.
All 100% of vehicles had to come to a complete stop at 4:50 a.m. and then carefully change to the right-hand side of the road and then stop again to give others time to switch sides. This was to avoid, obviously, head-on collisions. They could proceed at 5 a.m.
In major cities, this work took longer, so the ban actually ended up lasting until 3 p.m., significantly longer. And one-way streets presented, as you can imagine, extra problems. Bus stops had to be constructed on the other side of the street. Intersections had to be reshaped to allow traffic to merge.
And they had to pull that plastic off of the extra lights and remove the tape so like the new lines were visible.
Yep.
So how did it go? Did it go well or did everybody die?
Believe it or not, it went well. On the day of the change, there were only 157 minor traffic accidents reported, of which only 32 involved injuries, with only a handful serious. The next day was a Monday, and here were 125 reported traffic accidents compared to a range of 130 to 198 for previous Mondays, none of them fatal, so if anything, it improved the situation.
This improved safety became the new standard for several weeks, and proponents of the change cheered its success. However, as people became more comfortable, the rate of accidents creeped back up to previous levels.
Yes, it's a forced result, right? Because people were just driving more carefully. But nevertheless, interestingly, a year later, Iceland followed suit with very similar results.
Way to go, Iceland. Well, thank you to Dr. Caleb for sending this topic in.
Is Dr. Caleb a traffic doctor, do you think? I'm assuming, yes. I'm just going to assume. Dr. Traffic.
Yeah, a doctor of traffic. Maybe you specialize in like cones or in safety crossings. Who knows? Anyways, if you want to learn more about left and right hand traffic or Dog and H, there are links on our website, relay.fm/ungeniused/57. While you're there, you can send us an email or you can find us on Twitter. The show is at Ungeniused. Mike is IMYKE, and you can find me there as ISMH. And until our next traffic ban, Mike, say goodbye.
Goodbye.
Adios.